Hey everybody, Keddy the Kedman Blumenthal here,
And I'm Jeffy Reed.
and you're watching Unity Gain. So as we're still waiting for our publishing to come through for our songs, we are waiting still. So as we wait, we thought we would make a video for you and talk about our influences.
Yeah, when we talked about it a couple days ago about doing a video about our influences, I started thinking about interviews that I've done before. I've done radio interviews where they've asked what my influences are, and I always say, you know, the Beatles,
Of course.
and all these bands. I'm going to change it up, and I'm going to say my biggest influences from day one were my parents. You know, my mom is a piano player, and I didn't know back then at the time, but she can sit down at a piano and play songs and sing songs at the same time. And of course, I didn't know the value of that until I started becoming a musician myself. When I started playing guitar, I realized that that's a whole other milestone of being able to do this and
Sing
at the same time. So she's the one that bought me piano lessons. So I think piano is the greatest instrument to learn first, because
Absolutely.
everything that you can know about music is right here in about 1 foot of space. And then of course there's my dad. And my dad was the kind of guy who would turn the TV off and put a record on, you know. So constantly listening to music. And
Now, does your dad play anything?
my dad knows how to play one song on the guitar. But every once in a while he'll pick up a guitar and play it just to.
You ever try to teach your
Impressed.
dad anything?
No, he's never
Not really
shown
interested
any
in it.
interest in it.
Yeah.
In fact, first time he picked my guitar up and played that little song, I was like, "What? You know how to play guitar?" He goes, "Well, I can play this." And Dad was always listening to music while we were driving, and that was a big thing.
Yeah.
I remember this one time, right at the mouth of the Elk River, there's this fishing hole. You can catch salmon there. We were going fishing there, and you got to drive across this big grassy field. And the grass, it's a sheep farmer, so the grass is that tall, but it's just green, you know, it's right there on the coast. And the sun was just coming up, or the sky was just starting to turn blue. And as we topped the hill, you could see out, and you could see the ocean out there. It was like somebody had planned it out.
Yeah.
And it's time for a cool change. Started playing on my dad's tape deck, coming over the top of that hill. And the scene was just breathtaking. And the song fit perfectly.
Yeah.
And you know, it kind of brought a tear to my eye. And I can still remember that like it was yesterday. But anyway, the point is I was being influenced greatly in my musical journey by my parents,
Yeah. That's really cool.
straight out of the gate.
So my influences, as far as my parents go, in my family, my mom doesn't play any instruments, but she sings. And you know how they say that couples start to look like each other?
Right.
I think it's also true for blending of voices, because you can take two people that are, you know, strangers, put them together, they get married, they live many, many years, they sing together, and in time, their voices seem to just be perfect together. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I have an aunt and uncle that are like that too. Well, my mom and dad are like that. And she just sang with my dad because growing up in church, Dad would play his guitar and sing special songs when they used to have special songs in church.
Right.
And a lot of times my mom would sing a song, and even my sister would sing a couple songs with them as well. But Dad was a guitar player, just a rhythm guitar player, basic chords, you know. Mm-hmm. He'd sing, he wrote poetry, he wrote songs, and he'd sing his own songs. And even today, he'll whip out a song and just start singing something, and us kids are like, we've never heard this before. What is this, you know? But anyway, Dad was a poetry and songwriter, rhythm guitar, and mouth harp, but very basic mouth harp sing. And then my sister Tammy sings like a bird. And she plays the piano by ear. I love listening to her sing. She's got such a gorgeous voice. And then next in the line is my brother Don, and Don plays a saxophone. And lately, in the last, I don't know, 10 years, he's been doing a lot of songwriting, and I've heard some of his stuff, and it's actually really good.
Nice.
And he's been really working on trying to get some stuff published and whatnot. But he plays a great sax. And then Terry played trumpet in high school, but then he taught himself, kind of like me, how to play some stuff on the piano and figure it out just enough to chord, don't read music, just enough to chord to figure out how to write a song.
Yeah.
You know? And then there was me, which was drummer, and then kind of I am my father's son, poetry and songwriting. And that was my influence because of mom and dad. And it's just a huge influence.
I think I started writing songs in 7th grade. And I didn't really know that I was good at it until other musicians that I knew who had been playing for a long time
Right.
would mention. For instance, my choir teacher, Mr. Brown. I was in the choir class and I was just over in the corner playing my guitar and singing a song. And I don't know if you overheard me telling someone that it was my song, but he came over and he said, "Is that your song, Jeff?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "That's really good." It is? Cool, you know, so yeah, songwriting came to me it was a gift. I don't think I did anything to learn it. It was just there.
Yeah. So we're gonna take a break, but we're gonna insert a clip here of some music. And this is just about a 10 or 15 second sample of some of the Face in the Crowd stuff that we've done years ago that we possibly could be redoing, and you might hear new versions of it or republishing of the products, and so you can hear them. So we're gonna just break away and enjoy. We'll be right back.
Watch out, man.
So we're back. So let's talk about, tell me some of your musical influences. Who were some of the people that influenced you?
Well, like I said, my dad's always playing music, and he loved great music.
Yeah.
And we're talking the Doors, and I mean, I could start naming bands, but it would take me all day to name the great ones, you know. Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I remember listening to the Beatles. I always thought I wasn't around during the Beatlemania thing.
Right.
So all I had was the music. I didn't really have all the hype, just the music, and that was enough. That's the great thing about the Beatles. I remember Tom Petty said on an interview one time that everybody loved the Beatles. It was just a bonus that the music was good.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
remember that. I've seen that.
And it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. And then once you start getting into them, you realize the music's great. That's how it happened to me.
Yeah.
First, the music was great, and then you get introduced to the Beatles.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the other way around, like most people that experienced the whole thing.
Yeah.
And they're still just awesome.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter which way you learn it.
No.
Just classic rock, I guess I could say. That was a big influence. All right, we're going to take another music break and play some classic Face in the Crowd for you for 10, 15 seconds anyways. Enjoy.
It's fun listening to some of that old music that we used to do. So, Jeff, I remember when I was in elementary school in music class, before you really had band, So third, fourth, fifth grade.
Right.
Mr. Crowner was my teacher. And we put songs up on the screen and he played his guitar and we'd sing all these songs. And clear in the back of the room, we're on one end of this room. It's like a double room with the middle wall taken out. He had 6 headphone listening stations and a bench back there, a big long bench. And every week, 6 kids were picked to go into the back and sit and listen. And he had the tape deck wired up front by his guitar, and he would play an album. And you could sit and listen. And he had a microphone. Keddy, stop goofing off or you're going to have to come up here. And he had a microphone. He could keep an eye on us. But we'd sit back there and we'd listen to this great music. Because I remember singing Obla-dee, obla-da, life goes on, yeah, you know, and the class loved that. We had it all on transparency before it was illegal to do that. And he would play his guitar and we'd sing a lot of different songs, but a lot of it was the bubblegum music that the Beatles did, you know. She Loves You,
Right.
you know, I Want to Hold Your Hand, all that stuff. And it wasn't just Beatles, they were just kind of peppered in. There was a lot of other stuff too, you know. But that was my introduction to the Beatles at a young age, but I never really did anything with it after that. I just knew it was there. I didn't know anything about it, and I fell in love with the Beach Boys. So.
And of course, you know, I can't talk about all my influences without mentioning the 80s.
Oh, I love the 80s.
You know, the skin tight leotards or whatever they had.
I didn't like the spandex.
Spandex and the big hair and all that kind of stuff. You know, that's the music that, when I started a band, that's the music that we were playing because that's what everybody was listening to.
Sure.
Yeah, so that was a big influence, and the power chord. And I mean, it's funny, way back in the day, I had an uncle, my Uncle Rick, showed me how to play a power chord. And I remember that was a revelation of guitar. He was a guitar player. And he showed me how to play that 3-note chord. And he goes, see, now you can just move it around all over the neck and make a whole song out of it. That came in really handy in the 80s. That's what everybody was doing.
Everyone was playing power chords.
And yeah, that was a lot of fun. But yeah, the greats, they're always good to listen to. And I really appreciate the music of the 80s.
So for me, the 80s were pretty important too, you know. When you're in high school in the 80s, that was the perfect time to be in the 80s. Mm-hmm. You know, it wouldn't have been as good for us if we were in elementary school.
Right.
You know, we were in the early 80s. I remember in the 7th, 8th grade, I think that was 1980, you know, somewhere there. So, but high school was the best because now we're in the mix of all the music, all the things going on in high school, the boombox on the shoulder era, you know, and you could not help but be saturated with 80s rock music. It was everywhere.
Yep.
And that's when MTV came out.
Yeah.
So
MTV.
It was just everywhere. And the first era of MTV music was 80s big hair bands.
Yep.
And 80s pop and stuff. And that was what started it, you know. So for me, you know, when I got into the 10th grade, 11th grade probably, I was introduced to Stryper. You got to understand, growing up in a Christian home, I wasn't allowed to listen to non-Christian music. And so Stryper was a bit of a conversation
Yeah.
with the parents. They didn't like it. And I still put the spandex-clad guys on my walls and posters in my bedroom and the big hair and stuff. But the thing that, back to the influence of the parents, to my parents' credit, I've never had this conversation with them, but I feel, because I was really dedicated to music, as much as I am now then, but I was really dedicated to living my life clean and upright, if you will, proper, moral, you know.
Right.
And so my parents knew that. And I think they probably had a pretty good idea that as embedded as I was in my faith, that Stryper was not dangerous to me, to my well-being. It wasn't dangerous like it was going to lead me astray or something like that. Because my passion was to do the right thing and to use music as a ministry in my life. And so I think they let it slide. I've never had this conversation with them, but I think they just kind of trusted me, you know.
Yeah.
But I had two drum sets put together. So I had a double bass and toms. They're just cruddy piece of junk drums. And one of them was that blue set I used to have when I first joined the band. And but I had this PA system that with the boombox on top was about this tall. And I'd sit on my drums with that sitting next to me. And I turned around and I had an organ, a Roland touring organ my sister had bought, and I kept it at my house.
Nice.
Had microphones. I was like Neil Peart except with the keyboard, you know.
Yeah.
And I would just blare Striper, and that's how I learned how to play double bass. Was listening to Robert Sweet play double bass, and that's how I learned because of that influence. And I was able to carry that on. And then I started, you know, I loved Petra. They were a huge influence, and this was stuff that really helped me to be able to get deeper into the playing of it, the musicianship of it.
Right.
So, huge influence.
You know, that you mentioned, my mom was always a church-going lady when I was growing up, and she always went.
Sure.
And there was a lot of things in rock music that she would bring up that I would have never thought of, because a lot of Christians do have a problem with rock music.
Very much so.
And it's easy to understand why when they show it to you.
Yeah.
Because I remember Def Leppard had that song, Rock of Ages. And my mom was like, turn that off. I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, the Rock of Ages is Jesus Christ. And that is not what they're singing about. She said they're taking a biblical term and you know, it was, what she say, it was blaspheme.
Yeah.
You know what? It is.
Looking back.
Looking back, I'd say, yeah. I mean, I don't think it affected me negatively as I got older. And I think a lot of that stuff, the reason a lot of those older bands like that were getting into that kind of language and imagery, you might say, is just to sell records. I don't think they're really...
Yeah. Well, how about this one? Let me throw this one at you. And my parents never said anything about it. And it's Striper again. And I'm really surprised because I bought the shirt and I wore it to church, okay? It was their third album. Now, you got to understand, raised in church, in my head I have this thing that a lot of other people do that I don't do, called Christian swearing.
Right.
They're words you would hear on TV that would be swear words that you wouldn't say in your life or in your home life, you know, as a Christian in our home. But sometimes you'd hear other Christians say them, and they were a little innocent swear words, if you will, but to me they never were, you know. So Striper's gone through their controversy of their second album, which was Soldiers Under Command. But after the concert, I bought the shirt and I come to church. It's the next album, To Hell with the Devil.
I remember that album, yeah.
Yeah, and I wore that shirt to church. I can't believe I did it. And no one really said anything. And my parents never said anything, which really shocked me. It was a cool shirt too, long sleeve white t-shirt, you know, it was really cool. And no one said a thing about it, but everyone else out in the Christian world did, you know. But I thought, man, you've already kicked the hornet's nest, and why are you doing this, you know? But again, safe enough that didn't influence me. You know?
Right.
So we're going to cut away for another musical break here. Enjoy this next classic rock song from Face in the Crowd. From way back. Enjoy.
Looking back at me, what are they trying to see? Why are they searching?
All right, well, we were sitting here talking just now during that break, and we could probably talk another 4 hours about this stuff. It's just, it's what we love. I didn't even get into my jazz influences and my, gospel influences of black gospel music. I didn't even get into any of that, which is huge in my life.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that I didn't mention too about big country gospel influence in my life too, and but like Keddy said, we could go on for hours and hours and hours.
I don't think we're gonna have a country episode though.
No,
No,
probably not.
We could have a gospel episode.
Yeah, that's true.
We could talk about our gospel influences because there's a ton. I'm kind of Jeff and I were kind of raised in very, very similar churches, and the influences that we kind of both came across in our lives, we didn't know till after we met each other, were very, very similar.
Yep.
So some of the same people, and it's kind of neat. So we just kind of wanted to share some of that stuff with you guys and let you know kind of what makes us tick. So, all right. Well, you guys, we're going to wrap it up. We're so grateful that you're here. Thank you for coming with us, and I'd like to encourage you to click that like button. That'll really help us out a lot if you do. And click subscribe and click on that bell. When you click that bell, you'll be notified of videos when we upload them, and you can enjoy them with everybody else. And also be sure to leave a comment, because we're going to pick a lucky winner from those that leave comments, and we're going to ship out some swag to you. And already done that once, and it was well received.
So I got an email today, and it was our publisher, and they said that another one of our songs has been approved for publishing, and it'll be going out to all of the services, and so that should be happening pretty quick. So thank you for watching, and
don't forget to push record. So we decided we would do a little episode here while Jeff drinks his water on camera, and